Hello, I'm Doug Atkinson here at Solutions Review, and I want to thank all of our keynote speakers, expert moderators, panelists, and solutions sponsors for participating in this year's Insight Jam Live. This has been a big year with the launch of the InsightJam.com community site and the amazing growth of the Insight Jam YouTube channel, which now has over 500,000 subscribers. Much of this success is tied directly to the video events, podcasts, and panel discussions we have been producing, and none of that would be possible without the thoughtful participation of the many IT professionals who are generously sharing their expert insights for this latest jam. We are building Insight Jam to be a place to celebrate enterprise technology with best practices, expert analysis, and solution showcases. And we want all of you to join us there to keep the jam going into the new year and beyond. If you haven't joined Insight Jam, please do. And if you already have, take a moment to invite some of your colleagues. And again, thank you all for being here and enjoy this event.
Solutions Review presents Insight Jam, a social media community for enterprise technology. Hello and welcome to day 3 of the 6th annual Insight Jam Live, Strategies for AI Impact, 4 days of thought leadership. My name is Jonathan Paula. I'm the Multimedia Director here at Solutions Review, and I am excited to once again be emceeing another great panel as we kick off Cybersecurity Day. This topic for the next hour, AI's effect on threat detection and response. We've assembled a group from around the planet. Excited to have them all here. Gentlemen, thank you for joining me. Great to have you here. Looking forward to this discussion. We'll start off with some introductions. Michael, you've agreed to moderate, so we'll start with you. 30 seconds or so. Tell the audience a bit about yourself.
Yeah, hi. Thanks, Jonathan. My name is Michael Morgenstern. I'm a partner at Dablink Consulting and co-lead of our cybersecurity consulting practice. We advise CIOs and CISOs on a variety of technology acceleration and automation efforts.
Excellent. Thank you for being here. Appreciate it. Evan, over to you next.
Hi, all. Yeah, Evan Powell. I'm founder of a company called Deep Tempo. I'm a several-time entrepreneur, usually in and around enterprise and the data layer, and I'm excited to talk to you about, amongst other things, what we call a log language model. So using AI really at the core of cyber. So thanks for having me.
Very welcome. Thank you for being here. Ofer, over to you.
Hi, I'm good. I'm Ofer Friedman. As you can see, the long title, I'm Chief Business Development Officer of Authentics. Actually, 17 years in the business, and the business is identity verification, which uses obviously automation and lots of AI.
Excellent. Thank you for being here. Sebastian, you're up next. Tell us a bit about yourself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sebastian Straub. I'm the solutions architect at N2WS, which is a fancy way of saying I help people sleep better at night, knowing their cloud data is safe. And I do spend an alarming amount of time talking to people about why having all your eggs in one cloud basket is a terrible life choice. I also get to lead a fantastic team, collaborate with some brilliant folks at AWS and Azure, and all around get to play some exciting board games along the way.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us. Simon, welcome to the show.
Hi, I'm the CEO of Seaside. We do client-side security. So basically security for anything that executes in the browser of your user as they visit your website. So all of those analytics tools you use, chatbots, ads, basically any type of execution that happens in the browser, we make sure that none of that is doing bad things.
Awesome. Thank you for being here. Appreciate your time. And Sohrab, last but not least.
Hi, how's it going? Name's Sohrab. I'm the Distinguished AI Researcher at Vectra AI. My background grew up wanting to be a hacker, but was not particularly good at it. But my academic background instead was going into artificial intelligence. So, doing a lot of deep learning and AI for the last couple decades now. But since then, moved to Vectra AI, where I've been for 8 years, where we essentially apply and develop novel AI techniques and models to do detection and response in real time.
Awesome. Looking forward to the discussion. You guys bring a lot of different expertise from around the industry to this discussion. So, Michael, I'll let you kick things off with our first question and take it away.
Great, thanks. So we've been asked and have been answering many questions about AI for cybersecurity teams for the past few years. There's a lot of hype and utopian promises out there. I'm personally pretty cynical about it. Despite having clients for a couple of years now that just feel like it isn't living up to the hype. Most of the use cases we see haven't yet been worth the investment, but I'm super excited to be here with my co-panelists to discuss new and real ways that that AI can tackle these cybersecurity problems. There's a lot of proposed benefits: speed, scalability, behavioral analysis, anomaly detection, etc. We've got a company a client that's begun creating like an AI SOC analyst. It's a kind of standard use case for 2024. They've had some successful trials for, they're training on historical alert data, some best practices, and then having the AI execute a playbook. But as I said, I'm super excited to hear from everybody else here. Maybe we'll start with you, Evan. What are the most significant ways AI improves threat detection and response compared to traditional cybersecurity methods?
Yeah, great question. What we're seeing is a lot of demand for actually the detection side. So I think we're going to hear as well, as you were just saying, Michael, about response, i.e. having a SOC analyst, et cetera, that has been automated to some extent or augmented. We're actually seeing demand for indicators, learned indicators, if you will, on network logging data. So delivering defense in depth to tier one financials and telcos using what we call a log language model. And you can think of that as kind of a cousin of a language model that never got to read Shakespeare, and only got to read network logs. And it turns out they're quite good and adaptable to new environments. So we are seeing a lot of success actually in the detection realm. And then I'm really excited to hear from others, frankly, on the panel about what they're seeing in response and detection, of course. But we play in this detection realm, and man, we're beating the rules-based systems and sort of the traditional older generation ML systems in larger environments today.
Anybody want to take that next? Saurabh, how about you?
Yeah, I think there's as a breakdown, there's two ways to think about what AI really can provide for detection and response. One is to automate essentially activities that wouldn't scale because of lack of resources, humans, and so on. So you can imagine tasks that a human could do, but you just can't get enough of them. On the flip side, there's also the ability of these AI models, machine learning techniques to actually do things that humans really can't do, right? So as an example, one of the models we've worked on detects command and control traffic in even encrypted traffic, right? And basically we've created deep learning systems that can predict from temporal flows of information between a host inside your network and outside, whether or not the machine outside the network is actually controlling the machine inside, right? And this is based on, you have this highly, multidimensional time series data. No human is going to sit down and be able to, read, process that, and tell you, this looks like a command and control channel that's been opened up on your network. So AI techniques are really going to automate what the human can do on the one hand, and then also extend capabilities beyond things any human would be able to do.
Anyone else want to jump in?
May I put something in perspective here?
Please.
Okay. I think it looks like a celebration of AI as everything and anything, and that's where everything is going. So forget nuts and bolts and old school types of programming. At least in our field, it's not that way. We use lots of AI, increasingly AI, but we already came to the realization that what we need actually is a combination. Okay, some things are built for AI, but some things require the older algorithms, and moreover, the combination of AI with an increasingly amount of more and more and more indicators that are thrown into the equation. So I'm celebrating AI like you, but I think it needs to be put in perspective, because AI is, I think you hinted yourself, is a bit hyped in terms of being in its infancy, early stages, hallucinations and whatever. It finds things that may not be existing. And it depends quite a lot on those who are actually doing the training and the availability of data to train on. So at least in our field, yes, lots of AI. There will be even more, but there's no giving up of a combination of AI and algorithms and the incorporation of an increasing amount and increasing angles of adding more and more indicators into detection of identity fraud.
Great.
Can I jump in with some additional perspective as well?
Please.
Sure. So, I mean, I think it's really important to think about large technological advances as opportunities for both good actors and bad actors. I think it's safe to assume bad actors are going to be using LLMs to impersonate humans, to like perform more advanced attacks and move faster with certain attacks. And then it's really a question of how ready the security solution that you use is for those types of situations. And therefore, security companies that are at the cutting edge and are not just relying on only older detection mechanisms, but are actively trying to detect against attacks they may not even have seen yet. LLMs are really good at that type of thing. There's a lot of obscurity in security. And I mean, that's where we would use a SOC or actual humans in the loop. LLMs are an opportunity to at least make that a little bit lighter. So I think AI is an umbrella term. We've been using algorithms in security forever, really, for as long as I've been in the field, for sure. But LLMs are way more capable of dealing with the obscurity than I've seen any other type of models before.
Yeah, great. You know, between what Ofer said and what Simon said, you know, it's kind of lead me to the next question. I'll give it to you, Ofer, first, but you know, this combination of identity and human in the loop and where we're headed is particularly interesting to me. Ofer, what has AI's effect on identity-centric security initiatives been? I mean, are we finding new use cases in fraud prevention, detection? Like, where else does it need to go before it's really in the you know, a need in identity security?
Okay, so first of all, to sum it all up in one word, seismic. The effect of AI on identity verification is no less than enormous, but on both sides. The rate of innovation and sophisticated implementation of AI on the fraudster side, I've never seen that before in any business, any field I've been involved in. On a weekly basis, I can see new stuff popping up. A year ago, someone would use AI for generating faces or ID documents. Now I actually have it, a tool which is essentially fraud as a service, where you just need to pick the face you want. You just need all the details you need to get inside and choose the organization you want to attack, because that tool is built for the defenses of that organization. And then you press a button and it does the whole account opening or whatever it will be without, I mean, you simply sit back and drink pineapple juice from a coconut. So it's seismic what's happening, but it's also seismic on our end. And it's seismic not just because we need to employ it in a kind of difficult situation, because identity verification means that you're holding people's PII, personally identifiable information, their picture, their name, their personal data for the processing purposes. Now, if I would use AI as much as I want, I would have a giant sea of examples I can learn from, and I'm good. But you remember there are privacy rules and there are regulations that prevent holding and doing all of that without a complicated consent situation. Then you have another problem, which I think should be underlined here all over the place, which is this. Potentially, give AI all the examples you want, it will study it, and you have some kind of answer at the end. Let's say Evan just sent me his ID, and my system says it's fake. Now, if you look at the ID, it looks good because generative AI can create them good enough in order to succeed in fooling your senses. So if I'm saying it's wrong, how would you know? And you just asked a good question about the man in the loop. Now, if AI is there and it says it's not okay, and you give it to the man in the loop, the man doesn't see anything. And that is why there is now a growing aspect that's called explainability, which is in its infancy of helping a human being make a decision on a claim that his eyes or ears cannot see or hear. But some kind of fact has to be there, because if I say that's fake, that means that that client is not onboarding, is not going in, and you don't want that. So it's kind of a seismic shift where fraud is using AI at the level of sophistication now, because we see professional fraud, not just the amateur one.
That's great. I want to throw another lens, since you took the consumer and essentially the consumer identity lens. I want to take the corporate lens. I have a client that's leveraging an internally hosted AI with a reporting script for nested group analysis. Scripts essentially crawling through their Active Directory nested group and reporting on circular dependencies, multiple paths to Okta. And then it writes to JSON, ships to an internal LLM, and then back to this whole concept. Then it generates a report for humans to read and make decisions on. So essentially the AI here is just doing the discovery and bringing data for a human to figure out what to do about. How about the rest of you? You want to get in on either side of this?
Well, I think AI can monitor user behavior far beyond what we used to do. It can evaluate typing speed, mouse movement, login locations. Any deviation triggers alerts, even if the attacker has stolen valid credentials. And it's the equivalent of having a fake ID. You're a 5'10", and the ID says you're 7 foot tall, wearing glasses and having a limb. There is some promising additions where organizations can dynamically adjust proof of identity on a vast variety of data points you would have never been able to evaluate pre-AI era. And AI-driven identity security shouldn't just be for large enterprises. I'm thinking like a move to like a service model, perhaps balanced between in-house LLM and federated AI security would probably be helpful.
I think that's happening. That's the what you call in the US the mobile IDs, and the world calls it digital IDs, which basically changes the game, but also changes the game in another way. Fraudsters are having difficulties breaking those encryptions, so they don't. They simply change mode of operation. In a way, they're going back to be manual from going through automation, which they try to go before that.
Yeah, great. If I pull, I don't know, probably one item from each of four of you, I think I'd sum up and say AI is enhancing speed and accuracy of real-time threat detection, or trying to get to real-time threat detection, maybe soon to be mitigation through automation, as you guys are all saying, through analyzing far more information and data. We're using machine learning, whether we're calling it AI or ML at this point, everybody wants to call it AI, to figure out what normal network behavior looks like, and then figure out anomalies, which is letting us get faster at all of this. At least I'm starting to see that. So Rob, maybe I'll ask you, how can AI further enhance speed and accuracy of real-time threat detection and mitigation?
Yeah, so a common topic that everyone's talking about really is being able to do things that couldn't have otherwise been done by just humans alone, right? And so, I think, and actually to one of Ofer's earlier points of, traditional algorithmic approaches and expert knowledge, I think one of the really important things is applying AI in the right domains on the right data, right? So to the point I was making earlier about command and control channels, right? These are, there is a underlying behavior there that you want to extract, and you can train models that learn on historical data, but generalize to completely unknown, never before seen attacks, right? And the goal is, can we marry security knowledge with machine learning and AI knowledge in the appropriate way so that we can create models that ultimately, both do the things that, humans can't do or can't do at scale, but also do it in a way that, doesn't actually just create more noise for the end user, right? So if you properly define the behavior we want to pull out, like a machine outside your network controlling a machine inside the network, if you really define that well, being able to train to extract that piece of information, then correlate and stitch it with other, activities, behaviors. It's that sort of analysis that just takes information. It takes raw data and turns it into information and then knowledge, right? Being able to make that actionable, I think, is what AI is really, bringing to the fore.
Yeah, just maybe I could quickly just agree. I'm highlighting maybe three things you said there. Generalization, which you would know quite well what you're getting at there, but it's fairly mind-blowing when you see it at work. As today's models get smarter, they are better and better at making sense out of novel environments. So this is where we think of it as a flavor of collective defense. Signature-based approaches, the end is more than nigh. Right? We've all talked about that. Ofer, you talked about it. There's, innovation on the attackers. So the beauty of these sorts of AI, or what we're doing, I won't go down that road, but what these approaches can give you is you can learn on what's normal. Why is that so important? You don't have that many great labels, right, in security of attacks. So you learn you've got a lot of logs though, on what's going on in normal. And that gives you this ability to do sort of auto diktat, if you will, in these models. They learn to predict themselves or the data they have, and they get really good at then seeing what's abnormal. But then we've all said it, and I'll just say it yet again, you got to give the humans context. So explainability, again, I think Ofer, you mentioned it. We all alluded to it. You can use models to do it. So what if this sequence looks most like this MITRE attack sequence? Aha, now you've translated it into the domain of the SOC. They should know MITRE attack, presumably, if they're level 1, level 2, level 3 SOC analyst. So there's things that you can do to bring the human context so you keep the human in the loop. But yeah, generalization, learning not on signatures anymore, and providing humans context. It's all doable with AI, but you got to have the empathy and the approach for the actual human that's doing the job.
By the way, we have two more uses for AI in this context. One of them is that AI can help AI train, which means using it in order to produce never-ending piles of examples. And the other one, at least for us, it's also a discovery tool, because it kind of finds anomalies in patterns that you can then translate back to understanding something has happened. This is a pattern of something. So just two items that add, two more angles to the application of AI in threat detection.
Yeah, I mean, if you go back to my earlier comment, right, we're definitely seeing some teams starting to switch their focus from automating the SOC analyst experience and improving threat detections by being able to tie together better telemetry data, like into a threat alert. So they're starting to mirror what CrowdStrike or SentinelOne does with correlated alerts, but it's getting better. I suppose that's an advancement over SOAR, which is entirely playbook driven. which is not. I mean, look, it's early, and that's why this is interesting. But we're just not yet seeing the results, or at least not a lot of the results outside of some of these pilots.
Can I just jump in?
Yeah, jump in.
So like something that throughout my career, like building various products, came back more than I liked was, especially when using scoring-based detection mechanisms, why does this thing score the way it scores? What's the reasoning here, right? And that would then trigger a support ticket, and eventually one of the engineers on the team would often go back and basically reverse engineer why the machine learning model that was created scored it the way it scored by looking at attributes. We no longer have to do that. You can run the cheapest conversational AI that you can find on Hugging Face on your own old GPU in your basement, and it will be able to give you a reasonable explanation on why something scored the way it scored purely on those attributes if you feed it the data. So why did it score the way it scored? It scored the way it scored because of XYZ. Just that conversational element already makes so many solutions a lot more user-friendly, capable, nicer, and it kind of blows my mind that a lot of security solutions in the enterprise space just simply haven't picked it up. We're still having to reach out to support people to ask, why did this thing get flagged? AI has been around, like the LLMs have been very accessible for like the last 2 years, really. And it's funny to see everybody talk about it, but the most obvious use cases of it still haven't been adopted by many of the vendors.
I want to dig in here a little bit, and I'm going to cheat because I'm going to ask and answer a question, but I don't have the whole answer. So hopefully you guys will all jump in or pile on. So the next one is, what are the risks and rewards of relying on AI-driven automation for cybersecurity, and how can organizations maintain the right balance with human insight, with human oversight? I think we've been mostly talking about rewards and benefits for 20 minutes. So let me just pick apart the challenges for a second. We see risks that many of our clients, including over-reliance on automation, lack of understanding, even though we can talk the talk around false signals, limited explainability and transparency. In the last week, I've had 3 or 4 inbound articles talking about the AI wall. And while I don't think we're there yet for threat detection, like it really is a cautionary tale for me for cutting humans out of the loop. So one of my clients described it really well to me. He said, it's a mix of choosing the right model, building the constructs to securely ingest and analyze the data, and then consistently tuning prompts and working on prompt engineering that yields the fruit. But with all these risks, I'm still skeptical. So I'll pose it back to the rest of you guys. What rewards have you actually generated rather than just hypothesized?
We've caught attacks. I mean, it can't get more serious than that. We've caught attacks that didn't match attributes we monitored, but that by actually going through the code and parsing it through an LLM and asking targeted questions, got caught. A lot of the security solutions out there are relying on the NVD to post a CVE publicly on the internet, and they've got a backlog of multiple thousand reports to review at all times. Many LLMs are capable of detecting attacks. So, I think at this point, AI skepticism in security really comes down to the subject. If we're talking about open source dependency management, actually parsing through code and understanding what it does, it has proven its impact already since GPT-3. So we're already far beyond the point that we can be skeptical about that. I think the biggest downside to come to the flip side of the positives is that, well, guess who is faster at adopting LLMs than security companies? Bad actors. And they've got access to all the same technologies that we do because LLMs were not built by the security ecosystem. It was built by other technology companies out there that made it publicly accessible to the greater good. Therefore, great use cases have emerged, but also bad actors have started using it. So I think that the biggest downside of AI is the fact that bad folks also get to use it, and that there's a lot of solutions out there by good people that are not keeping up to date and are not using it to detect AI. I think the only way you can fight an LLM-based style attack nowadays is by very rigorously making sure you're using the most modern LLM yourself and have implemented it in the most capable way possible.
And if you're using the newest one every time, how concerned are you guys about data poisoning?
We use publicly accessible data. There's really no downside or risk to what we do with the data. So in our use case, coming back to, we can be negative about like AI in a general sense, but I think there's many use cases where it's already been proven to be very effective. So there may be specific cases where your very sensitive data may be at risk. Well, sure, handle it with extra care, right? But for certain use cases, like open source dependency management, that's all public records. That's all data that's out there, right? So there's no data risk involved with that.
Yeah, on the data risk side, just quickly, and it gets to something you were saying, Simon, like why haven't the legacy traditional vendors adopted it more? I think we have an industry structure issue where we've got folks vying for being platform solutions, locking customers in with their data and proprietary query languages, et cetera. So the big platform companies may not be incented to innovate quickly. We're seeing some early success. I wouldn't claim that we've proven the hypothesis completely, but running our intelligence on Snowflake as a native app. What does that mean? It means we don't get your data. We bring the intelligence to your data and it runs there. And so to the extent that you're comfortable with Snowflake having that logging data, not everyone is, but some folks for sure are, you now don't have to create a pinhole or bigger to get data out to us, munge it, get it back to you. So it's a great question. There are some approaches where you can handle the data gravity and the loss of data risks. I would just quickly say, and I'll throw it over to the team, where there are patterns out there to help you, like differential privacy, et cetera, to help you basically try to make models immune to inversion attacks, but inversion attacks are possible. So at least our kinds of clients are likely being attacked by state actors. So we have to really think seriously about that as well. So a model, as obscure as it is, if you're not careful, it is possible that someone with enough compute and patience could use it to get back to the underlying data. So that is something that we should all take seriously. The last thing any of us want to be, of course, is an attack vector.
I do think there is something to your point, though, Michael, about data poisoning. I mentioned wanting to be a hacker and not being good enough myself. I am lucky enough to work with a number of security researchers. When you talk to them, they're poisoning data sets online all the time. Like they know people, they're doing it, they've done it in their past lives or whatever, but people, anything from just now with LLMs, obviously textual data, but previously, virus total data and so on could be, it's public, which means that anyone can influence it, right? And so there are real risks there. And then the second point I would make is that, on the LLM side, I think LLMs are an aspect to how AI, these are obviously current models, current techniques that are most prevalent, but there's existing, predictive AI models that are really useful on the detection side. The LLM piece really is useful in the investigative and response side, right? Contextualizing, dealing with unstructured data, being able to, anthropomorphizing, but reason in a sense like humans, even though that's not really what they're doing. But ultimately, with LLMs, the reason many LLMs are seemingly really impressive and have these great capabilities, but we've failed to see them being productionized or ending up in widely accessible solutions is that they aren't robust enough that you just trust an LLM in a zero-shot prompt manner, right? You don't just say to the LLM, hey, is this malicious or is this benign? You really have to structure how you're using the LLM in order to be able to get meaningful and correct sort of answers out of it. And absent that, it's going to create more work than actually solving things for you.
By the way, in our domain, which is a bit an angle of cyber, it just an angle of cyber, there's one more aspect to it. Because until now, fraudsters have tried to produce something that fools you, the picture of the ID, the face, or whatever. Now we are seeing another attack vector, which makes it all difficult, which is trying to control the value chain or the process itself, which means that what you get on your side may not be the same thing that your potential client, a customer, has just been taking a picture of. In other words, injections, hijacking, etc. So it's kind of a factor that's added in terms of we have to look at the process or the flow of all the inputs we are getting, not just the inputs themselves.
Great. Thank you, guys. Okay, so we barely brushed the surface of this one, so let's dig in a little bit more. How can AI help organizations stay ahead of these threats, including the ones leveraging AI? I mean, we're going to have adversarial and defensive AI fighting each other. Like, Sebastian, what do you think?
Well, unlike humans, AI doesn't get tired, distracted, or overwhelmed by alert fatigue. Sure, you can completely automate your threat response, and there are absolutely positively no known situations where that has ever backfired, like Skynet and Terminator. So I think we shouldn't kid ourselves. As cyber threats grow more advanced, often leveraging AI themselves, the defensive playbook must evolve too. So AI equips organizations with the tools to anticipate, counter, and outsmart attackers, even when the attackers use AI themselves. And this is quickly escalating into a game of cat and mouse. It's like an AI arms race, if you will. I think in the future, pen testing will be an ongoing, constant staple. An AI system can perform constant reconnaissance, such as probing for vulnerabilities by accessing data logs, traffic patterns, user behaviors. And this gives your security teams the chance to block the attacker's progress before they even launch their payload. Think, for example, the MGM hack. Remember that? That was a phone call. You won't even need a talented voice actor anymore. AI voice can fill in. Just look at ChatGPT's advanced voice model. It has human voice tics built in. Sarcastic snickering, breathing, hesitation, filler words like, well, like, okay, well. So phishing emails already utilize offensive AI, generating communications with convincing language or mimic legitimate user behavior. Defense AI can counter this by spotting discrepancy in login patterns, unusual word usage, even detect anomalies because it knows that the recipient rarely communicates with the sender. So this can then flag attacks far more efficiently. The only thing, and I'm not sure if this fits here, the only thing that really concerns me is I just read an article that researchers from the University of Chicago have demonstrated that AI can predict crimes a week in advance at an accuracy rate of 90%. And I don't need Tom Cruise to tell me that's a bad idea.
Anyone else want to jump in?
Just made this call a lot more fun with the movie references. So
Another movie reference that might be relevant here. You've all seen Sneakers?
Yep.
My voice is my passport. Identify me. Yep. That world, that's the world we're living in, right? Voice cloning, identity attacks. It's more important than ever, to your point, Sebastian, inserting likes and ums and ahs. Like that's one of the first sort of hokey ways of beating the Turing test is spell things, right? And people are like, well, computers surely wouldn't do that, right? So on a superficial level, all of these things start to look more and more like the person. But what you really need is to be able to do a deep dive on, the behavior, the patterns of access. Like, is it normal for a person to be doing such and such with these resources at this time from this location? All of this is information that you have to extract, then correlate with other, detections and actions and context. And it's clear why the defender's dilemma is so prevalent, right? So it's a massive job.
By the way, at least as I see it, AI is the future of media. And human brains are going to be getting used to the fact that the news you're watching, the video you're watching, anything you're doing in terms of communication may be done via a kind of bot, which looks totally normal. And in a way, our brains will be trained to refer to this as normal communication. You won't be able to know that. And we are already seeing that in terms of the attacks that we are detecting, when fraudsters are using the AI with a randomization element into it. So you can make the same picture, the same situation, the same ID document and face be in an infinite number of iterations in terms of never ever any organization or any person will see exactly the same. And this is kind of is very difficult for traditional detection systems because they are looking for patterns of repetition. Have I seen that face, but in a different ID? Have I seen, etc.? And it won't happen again. Now, if AI is going to be the bulk of media, you're going to be attacked, so to speak, or can be attacked 24/7, exposed to any channel, whether it's about your money or the news you're reading or the bank you're talking to, etc. So we're getting into an immersive AI, having to basically watch your back. And I haven't even counted in the age of IoTs that will eventually come in, and an IoT is a device that's you, okay? It's your IoT, so it identifies you. So the amount of data that will be 24/7 poured into the network, you'll have no alternative but to have some kind of mechanisms working all day long for all those channels, trying to detect anomalies.
Great. I got one more big question here. Let's talk about the future. What emerging tech, AI tech, should organizations be adopting to make sure that their cybersecurity is effective and their strategies are effective in the next few years? Simon, why don't you take that one?
So the way I like to think about this is that we just got out of something that looked like it was going to be a recession. So as the world has done in history, we've gone back to a consolidation of vendors, often leading to people buying not the greatest solutions and still paying a lot of money for them. My biggest suggestion to anybody now is look at your tech stack. If there are solutions in there that you've been using for a long time that haven't really improved, that haven't seen any significant change in how they operate, they've not built better detections into it using LLMs, you're probably at risk. You're using an antiquated piece of technology that is going to be very easily bypassable by the next generation of attackers. So now is the time to be thinking about the vendors that you use, whether you over-consolidated and the products you use within your company are not actually giving you real security, and then start looking for new companies that came out of this AI boom, where people are actively using previously working techniques, but also leveraging new methods using LLMs. I think it's impossible in a 2-minute section to tell you go buy this, that, and that. I think in general, we just have to look at our entire tech stack and recognize which of these companies gone stale and are perhaps AI skeptics, and the other ones that are at least giving it a try, recognizing where it can be helpful and where it can't, and then making for a better product that's more capable of detecting new attacks that we haven't seen before. In security, we always joke about security by obscurity. We're getting to a state now where people are using obscurity as a way to verify that it's a human, which has never worked. In the world of bot detection, we started monitoring for mouse scribbles at some point. So whether a user went direct to a point in an unnatural looking line, well, guess what? It took about 24 hours for a bad actor to realize that we were doing that. And then they would find a way to make it artificially scribble using a randomization engine. There was never a world where we could use human-like imperfections as a method of verification that you're actually dealing with a human. So that idea is, we've tried that. It just doesn't work. And by the way, any issue in security that hasn't been a cat and mouse problem for a while will probably become a cat and mouse problem in the near future. And so your security people better be happy and like quite energetic, because cat and mouse problems are exhausting and lots of people do not like them. I personally do, because that's when you get creative in building better solutions. But lots of people out there end up just fishing behind the net, using antiquated technology, not trying to stay on top of things. And basically just treating security like the 9-to-5 job that to some people it is. You really got to understand that while you're going home, the bad actor isn't. And you have a lot of things that you need to do to catch up on them.
Great. Thank you. So we're coming up on time today. Let's do a round robin for closing thoughts. Saurabh, you want to go first?
Sure. Yeah. No, I agree with Simon there a lot. I think one of the sort of underlying principles is anyone that tells you they have a singular AI solution that's going to solve all your problems, single model that rules them all or whatever, it's really not going to be the case. I mean, there's really no free lunch here. What you need is solutions that are tailored and adapted to the types of problems that you care about in your environments, and that those are going to be, there's a myriad of tools and solutions and techniques that are going to be used there, and so I think it's a difficult environment, but the potential is there with AI to be able to really protect, secure, and understand what's going on your network, on your infrastructure, and so on. So,
thanks, Simon.
Yeah, to what Saurabh said, I think it's important to just understand the vendors that you have in your stack. Lots of these security companies have been either acquired by private equity firms or gone public, and they're not really in the innovator mindset anymore. On the entire flip side, you've got JavaScript kids on Twitter using AI and solving big problems in Node.js, but then they turn up and actually create 100 new problems by fixing one. I mean, as everything, you got to find a solution that works for you, and that's usually somewhere in the middle. So finding a security company that has adopted working and well-proven techniques, but are also actively trying new methods and being very conscious about them, and also don't fall in love with them without them having proven themselves. I think that's a major thing here. I think a lot of solutions out there are over-promising how LLMs are performing, when in reality, they are usually doing an okay or good job, but still need fine-tuning, still need further development. And we just have to be serious about that stuff. Like, we're not doing ourselves or this technology space or our customers any favors by over-promising the performance of a product ever. That includes AI.
Thanks. Sebastian.
I couldn't agree more with Simon. I think he's absolutely right. I think if you have a tech stack that's been around since 2004 and is working at a level of 2015, and you think, yeah, everything is going fine, then you're really not doing yourself a good service. I think the future of cybersecurity lies in adopting AI technologies that are not only reactive, but predictive, adaptive, semi-autonomous, and self-healing. I mean, what would you rather have, a yellow check engine light or a system that proactively deals with the issue before it ever happens? So I think Simon is absolutely right.
Great. Ofer.
Look, in the realm of identity, we are going to live in the matrix. And we need a blue pill. And the way it looks now, the blue pill is going to be composed not from one substance, but an increasing number of items. Pretty much, it's going to look like an analyst to the stock exchange that needs to add anything from the economic situation to what that company does to whatever, and the weather and everything. But there's one factor we haven't talked about, and especially is relevant to what we do in terms of identity verification, which is regulations. We focused on technology alone, but usually companies first do what they must. And regulations are the ones who are setting the boundaries. And right now in the identity verification, the boundaries are kind of vague. So there needs to be work here of the script writer, not just the blue pill.
Thank you. Evan.
Yeah, just quickly, I would agree with everyone. Having lived through, helped led a couple of industry transitions, we got to get buyers to strangle the monolith or strangle the last legacy platforms a bit. Stop increasing the spending, even though Splunk is now owned by Cisco. You got to push back. And one way to do it, by the way, is AI. What do I mean? Well, an embedding, which is basically what you translate your logs into once you turn them into sort of the semantic sense of the data, is, I don't know, 1/100% of the size of the logs. So send the indicators to your Splunk. Don't send raw logs. And, we're working with customers that spend, $500 million and up on security. Moving the money around to innovation is all important. And so I'd second what Simon and others have said. You got to strangle the freaking monolith and focus a little bit on innovation. And again, I would shout out to Snowflake and other kind of data-centric approaches. Maybe you can bring the intel to the data and shorten your innovation cycle that way, possibly.
Thanks. And I'll just put my 2 cents in. I fully recognize the absolute requirement to be ideating and piloting and testing these technologies. AI is not yet a panacea, and the human in the loop is not going away. Detection and response teams are facing an increasing acceleration in attacks, so they need ever better technologies to keep up. But that has to be very use case specific, like you've heard today, and my early examples of AD or level 1 SOC analysts. I don't love platitudes, but we're on a knife's edge at the moment with both attack innovation and defense innovation are both improving incredibly quickly. Jonathan, back to you.
Excellent. Thank you, one and all, for your time over the last hour. It has been a pleasure listening in, especially all the movie references, which definitely is more my speed. As we wrap up the program here, I'd like to invite each of you to give us some self-promotion, whether you want to plug your company solution, a book, a podcast, your LinkedIn profile. We'll start in counterclockwise order with Rob. 30 seconds or less.
Yeah, I don't have any podcasts or books to hawk, and generally I'm not a marketing person, so I don't like pitching our company. But honestly, if in the XDR space, if you're looking for solutions, I think the type of models detections, we really try and take raw data, turn it into attack signal intelligence that's actionable, that's noise reducing, and ultimately saves people time. And so if it sounds of interest, check out Vectra AI.
Right on. Thank you for coming. Really appreciate it. Simon, over to you. Where would you like to send the audience?
So I like to ask the question, do you actually know what's happening in the browser of your users when they visit your site? And the answer to that is probably not. If we're serious about it. So that's what we do. We make sure that third-party dependencies that you use on your website are not able to exfiltrate your customers' login credentials, credit card information, or mine crypto in the browsers, or any type of client-side attack really is in our scope. And so the interesting thing is that there's actually compliance requirements for that now that require you to monitor client-side scripts if you accept credit cards online. So that's what we help people accomplish. Everybody's going to have to do something if you accept a credit card online. And that's what Seaside is here to help. And we couldn't be as successful as we are with detecting attacks without LLMs. We deal with an entirely dynamic thing. Stuff that gets fetched from a third-party endpoint to the browser of a user. It can change at any point in time. And so LLMs have been absolutely crucial in making this thing work. And I don't think any of our competitors have really used them to the extent that we have. So that's perhaps also relevant to mention. So yeah, seaside.dev, or actually seaside.ai if you must. That also leads to us.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you being here. Sebastian, final thoughts.
Sometimes a good security measure is also your safety net and resilience. So if you're managing AWS, Azure, or multi-cloud environments, N2WS Backup and Recovery is a cloud-native game changer. It keeps your data safe, your operations compliant, and your downtime at zero. And we're not just a backup tool, we're your disaster recovery sidekick. Instantly recover data across cloud, optimize costs with smart archiving. So go to n2ws.com, get the free trial, and get some great geek swag with movie references and Legos.
Sounds good. Thank you. Ofer, anything you'd like to plug?
When people think about what we do, which is the domain of identity verification, they usually think about the guard at the door, checking whoever's coming in to check if he's good or not. Problem is that almost everyone already has those Trojan horses inside, those who already came in. How do you detect them? And the answer is there is a solution. And that solution does use AI because it must do that. And there is also a point, especially in identity verification, for corroboration. It's not just a bunch of companies competing against each other. There's already lots of knowledge, especially when it's coming to digital IDs, that can be actually shared rather than having to check you every time all over and over again. So simply stay tuned to that. And if you're interested, like me, in deepfake or generative AI, you're more than welcome to visit my Facebook group about deepfake and generative AI.
Excellent. Thank you very much for being here. Evan, over to you.
Hey, yeah, this has been great. Deeptempo.io or .ai, as we were saying, is one way to find us. You can also simply, if you happen to have a trial account or a prod account on Snowflake, you can search for Tempo or Deep Tempo, et cetera, and you'll see we are the first native app doing learned indicators on Snowflake. So it's a low-touch, easy, low-risk way to actually try out some of this AI for indicators. We work with all manner of customers. And we're really excited about this notion of collective defense. So these models generalize and get better the larger they get. It's not a panacea. You need context, you need human in the loop. But if you're interested in it, do check us out, Deep Tempo AI, or again, find us on the Snowflake Marketplace under Deep Tempo or what have you. So yeah, thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. Thank you for being here. And last but not least, our moderator, Michael.
Thank you. Dablin Consulting brings deep technology expertise in cyber and AI to help our clients get value out of their tech stack on time and thus generate real return on investment. We're tech agnostic, but domain experts. Happy to talk about your challenges. Please find us at dablinconsulting.com.
Excellent. Appreciate that, Michael. Thank you again for moderating. Thank you, one and all, our panelists, for your time over the last hour. And thank you for your attention. If you'd like to dive deeper into this topic and learn about enterprise technology, head over to insightjam.com and join the conversation, your always-on destination for technology needs and research. Or you can subscribe to our YouTube channel for panel highlights, weekly podcasts, expert advice, and a whole lot more. We will be back in just a few short minutes with our next event of Cybersecurity Day, as Michael Magsley kicks off an expert keynote on data security in Overdrive. You don't want to miss it, so stay tuned for that. Until then, though, thank you as always for watching. And for my panelists, we hope you have a great afternoon. Bye-bye. For video highlights, replays, and more, visit insightjam.com.